Alright, I want to talk a little bit about materials. So I'm going to go to my Manage tab, go to my Object Styles dialog box, and go to Imported Objects. This is going to show you the form that we brought in from the conceptual mass as an import from the family and the material that's applied to it. If you don't know the material or just want to confirm it, this is a good place to start. If you have any other options in here, you can go ahead and delete them by selecting them and go delete. Just make sure you keep the one that you brought in from the conceptual mass. Now I'm going to left click in this box right here, and then I'm going to left click again over here on the right side of the box, and that's going to bring up a little dot dot dot, and that will open up my material browser, and you'll see that it goes to the Form 1 mat. The Graphics tab shows you what it looks like in the drawing area. So how is it shaded when you select shading? What's the surface pattern on it? Right now we don't have any. And what does it look like when it's sectioned? So it's sectioning a solid gray. There's also a little checkbox here that says use render appearance. That's going to go and use this appearance tab, which is what controls what it controls what it looks like when it's rendered, and estimate the color from the appearance and apply it to the color here. So I'm going to go to Appearance, left click on that, and it's going to show me the current appearance asset that's been applied, and this is a ceramic. So basically you can apply any asset to any material, but oftentimes the materials are named based on the asset, and you can see that here. Yours probably looks a little different than mine. It's probably a default material. Right now mine is set to a ceramic, and based on the appearance asset, it's going to have different options for you to change down here. So you can see I have type, color, and finish, and then there's some bumps and relief pattern and a tint. I'm going to go ahead and switch this to a default material, and to change what it looks like when it's rendered, you can go to this Replace Asset. If you left click on that, it's going to bring up the asset browser. And this replaces what it's going to look like when it's rendered. So I'm just going to scroll down here and pick default. And if you highlight that, there's a little replaces the asset in the current material. And if you click on that, you'll see that it updates over here. And then I'm just going to close that. So this is just a default material. You can see that you have different options. Each one of these options controls a different sort of channel for this material. The most simple one to change would be the color. So I can left click on color here, and I will change this color to, might as well change it to something we can see. I'll change it to yellow. Click OK, and you see it updates that to the yellow. You could add a transparency here, some more reflection. You can also add an image, so if you wanted to, put some type of image on there. We would require that you not use an image that's repeatable, like brick or masonry, something that's scalar. Just use something that's either shiny or transparent, doesn't have a scale necessarily applied to it. Now, if I go back to graphics, right, you're going to see that it's updated that render appearance to yellow, and I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to click OK, and you're going to see that my material is updated. Now, we've had some issues where the material is not updating. Sometimes you may need to select it or even render it to get that material to update. I'm not sure why. Sometimes it updates and sometimes it doesn't. Okay, so let's go back to the material and take a little bit closer look at the material dialog box. You can also get to your material dialog box by going to your Manage tab and Materials. So I'm just going to left click on that. And now that I know that I'm in the Form 1 matte material, I can just select it and alter it. So I'm going to go back to the appearance here, and I am going to replace this asset again. So I'm going to replace it. And let's just scroll down, maybe see what we've got here. Bronze, chrome, there's clear reflective. There are also flyouts for each one of these where it's categorized them. So for example, if I go to liquid and pick tropical blue, I can replace that with a tropical blue. and you can see that it updates it to water, and again you get different options. So it will set the options for you based on what it thinks those things are. There's a wave height, that's really funny. But I'll just click OK, and you'll see that that will update. Let's go back. See how it's turning black? That's a little strange. So let's check the material settings. So if I click materials again and it opens up that Form 1 matte, for some reason it's having a problem calculating it. The graphics it's using render appearance, but it's just going 0, 4, 10. So let's render it and see what it looks like. Okay, so click OK. So I'm just going to do a quick render here. So show render dialog box, and we'll go over this dialog box more later. I'm going to change this from high to low, and I'm going to make sure that my exposure is set to default, and click OK. And then I'm going to render it, and we'll see how it comes out. So it actually does come out with the water rendering. So you can see it has some kind of caustics. It's pretty funky. Let's render it at medium and see. It's going to take a little bit longer, probably not too long, and see if it comes out a little bit more clearly. A little bit more clearly. Alright, let's go ahead and change this material again. So close that dialog box, go to Materials, Form 1 Matte, go to Appearance, replace this asset, and then we can go and replace it with something, maybe a polished aluminum, or how about anodized blue aluminum. We'll click on that. Close the asset browser, and you can see again we have different types of selections here. Okay, relief, pattern, cutout, and tint. I'll click OK, and you'll see that'll update. And I'm just going to render that guy one more time, and we'll see what we get. I would just suggest trying some different materials based on what you've got. So you can see that it's got a really big flake in it, sort of for that aluminum, right? So you may or may not like that. You can always go back and go to your materials and go to the appearance, and maybe anodized aluminum. Let's try, how about stainless steel? And you can see that that stainless steel comes up quite shiny, right? Now if I wanted it to still be blue, I could possibly tint it, with a blue color, right? And now that updates to blue. Click OK, and let's render that guy again. See if it has a different outcome. So it definitely does. It's a much smoother, much brighter blue. So there are a lot of options in the materials. I suggest you can play with them. But simple is often best in the beginning, and then moving up to more complex things later. Alright, so just one more thing I wanted to cover in the materials, right? And you'll notice that the tint doesn't go over. It's actually just using the gray from the original. In other sort of native Revit objects, you can just actually at this point you could just change the material itself. So if I went back to my manage and object styles, in a perfect world I would be able to come in here to this material, left click on it, and then say highlight generic, and let's just make that similar to the red, and click OK and click OK. But unfortunately that doesn't work. So if I render this again, right, it still comes out as that blue in the Form 1. And so let's do a little test. If I come into Materials and I pick Form 1 and I change that, let's say to green, and click OK, and then render it, even though in the Imported Objects dialog box it's set to the other material, it's still listening to that Form 1 application because of the imported object. So basically what you have to do is update the appearance. All right.